So let's talk Kentucky, the down and dirty at 30. Not an opponent to be taken lightly. We've said that. But upon further inspection over the past 24 hours, I'm not incredibly blown away. Tennessee holds a 82-26-9 record thanks to Caleb Jaroux on offthehooksports.com. You can read about this story. The Wildcats have gone a combined 38-19 in the past 4.5 seasons. So is that respectable for Kentucky, which is a basketball school, Amanda? I would say yes, respectable. I would say that Mark Stoops has done an overall good job. You?
Yeah, I think he's done a great job. I mean, he's done a fantastic job. He's probably the best coach that's been there since Coach Bryant. But it's still, unfortunately, a basketball school for Kentucky. I mean, that's what they're known for. That's who they are. And I think it's going to continue to stay that way, especially when Mark Stoops just pieces out. Because who wants to be at a basketball school coaching football? No one.
Oh, yeah, right. And I'm going to, that's foreshadowing because I'm going to get to something where I don't think they really had his back on a situation. Stoops, despite the fact that Kentucky is respectable, has still struggled against Tennessee at 2-8. And it's an interesting matchup for Tennessee because a lot of these players grew up watching Tennessee beat Kentucky 20 plus consecutive times. So I think a lot of these Tennessee players think you should just beat Kentucky, but they are respectable. And again, we're not downplaying at all what Mark Stoops has done. I just think, like a lot of other schools, there is a glass ceiling. And John saying, Crazy Nugs, he doesn't like you and won't send you T-shirts to you. I will send you T-shirts.
Crazy Nugs got his T-shirts.
I thought everybody had their T-shirts. If not, the distribution department will be taken to task. I am the person who puts my email on here, and you can always reach out to me. All right, but let's talk about this Kentucky team right now. Not what Mark Stoops has done, not the fact that they are respectable. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's talk about this Kentucky team as we see it. Okay. Will Levis, foot and throwing arm shoulder injury. Offensive line, not great. If you can name more than 2 of their receivers, you win without Googling, you win a gift certificate to Craft Treats. I know you can't, so I'm not even going to say that. So, no. So, here is another issue. This, as I was digging into Kentucky, they're a different team with running back Chris Rodriguez. And Chris Rodriguez is a power runner, kind of an old school, if you want to think maybe of not as good, but if you want to think maybe a Travis Henry style for you Tennessee fans, he's not going to bounce it outside and create space, which really you almost have to be in today's day and age of football. But he is a guy that is going to be able to fall forward, pick up 3 yards when it should have been none, pick up 5 yards when it should have been 3. He's a fall forward 2 yards type of guy. So he's a power runner. He creates his own space, as the coaches like to say. But the thing that stands out to me most about Chris Rodriguez is Chris Rodriguez, if you look back, had an issue in which he was supposed to, him and some other players. Now, they haven't directly attributed and confirmed this, Amanda, but it's pretty common knowledge because he was sat for 4 games, that Chris Rodriguez was clocking in, or he was clocking in, filling out time cards at a hospital because players are allowed to have jobs in the offseason. And that was a big deal 15, 20 years ago, that players during the summer could have jobs. And I'll tell you a quick story. There was a Tennessee offensive lineman one time, and I was doing a radio remote from a car dealership, and I pulled in and parked my car, and he obviously didn't care if he sold a car or not. This was to support a player. This was one of those hookup jobs where he could make a little bit of money during the summer. So a shirt, a button-up shirt, short sleeves, and a tie. Shirt way too tight. A tie just kind of disheveled, and arms crossed. 6'3", 320 pounds. Looks at me and he goes, "You want to buy a car or something?" Not the best way to intro a possible sales pitch. I may not be the best salesperson in the world, but
I like it, though. I like it. Just get down to it. You want to buy a car? No, yes. Okay, then. There you go.
Well, okay, maybe he was on to something. Maybe he was ahead of his
Well,
time.
he
But
was.
the point is you were able to get these jobs, so that was a thing, and that was a big thing because used to be you weren't allowed to work because you were amateur. Now I'm going to get to NIL in a roundabout sort of way. So Chris Rodriguez, here's what he does, and some other players. He's supposed to be working at the hospital. Now I don't think that these were what was the term during COVID that you absolutely had to work, the jobs that
Essential.
essential. I hope this wasn't an essential job because Chris and his pals didn't show up a lot. And as a matter of fact, they filled out time cards that they were at the hospital at the same time that Kentucky was supposed to be having workouts, practice, and they were supposed to be in class. So, oops.
That's
Okay.
stupid.
That is stupid. Are you ready for it to get stupider?
Or more
Okay.
stupid. Yeah.
All they had, yeah, of course it's more stupid. That was the irony. So
Mm-hmm.
all he had to do is sign a contract to say, I'm going to tweet out this hospital is awesome. And with NIL money, they could have paid him for that. So it's like they're using, like their offense is 15 years old. They're using these outdated methods of paying players, which all he had to do is tweet it out. You have to do some sort of action. I know more about NIL than I ever thought I would because we do work with Jacob Warren and Cooper Mays. And I've said before, I'm very proud to say that we pay them for their appearances and we love it. But at the end of the day, Amanda, it just befuddles me and makes me think that Kentucky is never going to be a football school if they can't figure that stuff out. If I can figure it out, and they can't, that's pretty troublesome. Why would you even put a player in a situation where he had to be there? Why wouldn't you just put him on a billboard or have him tweet something out? You have to do some sort of action to get NIL money, but it could
Why
be a
wouldn't they
simple
just put
tweet.
him on a commercial?
I don't know.
Then he wouldn't have to tweet out. All they would have to do is just run the commercial.
Right. Or okay, let's say, for instance, there is some sort of issue, okay, that he might have, and a company. Now, this is where players and I think NIL is going to get interesting because let's say a player has, I don't know, a character issue, and you might not want him associated with your particular brand. Well, Chris Rodriguez accepted a guilty plea and for a May arrest for DUI. So I don't know if that's part of the reason that he got involved with this signing up for hours thing. Maybe there's not a company that wanted to be associated with him, but I think it's big. I think it's bigger than that. And Brittany's saying we're making too much sense of the folks in Lexington to understand. I feel like I can say that because my cousin is a junior at UK. It's bigger than that.
Sure.
It's the fact is, if you're at Kentucky, and why did Kevin O'Neill, for the old ones among us, why did Kevin O'Neill leave Tennessee? He was a basketball coach and left in the middle of the night. It was because Isaiah Victor wasn't deemed eligible and a Tennessee football player was. So that's why the thing at Kentucky that Mark Stoops is doing is impressive, but not sustainable. He is
Correct.
never, there is no way, Amanda, a 5-star basketball player at Kentucky would get in any sort of trouble like this. I mean, the DUI aside.
No, and I mean back in the day too, even this is why Coach Bryant left Kentucky is because
Yes.
he got a pin and Rupp got a Cadillac. So that's why Coach Bryant left Kentucky is because basketball was king and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yes. So, I look at this team. I go into every week, especially during game week, and I take a look at it at each and every team that Tennessee has played. And I have told you that Tennessee has a substantial foe in Kentucky one that you don't want to overlook. But this is a lot closer to when Tennessee ran off 20 straight plus wins than I thought initially when I looked at this Kentucky team. This is a team that Tennessee would have to show up and play a C minus game to, and Kentucky would have to play an A to A plus game. I mean, this is, for whether you want to say talent, scheme, whatever the case might be, Amanda, there is a gap in the way these teams play. Now, Kentucky is better with Rodriguez back. He played well against Mississippi State last year, and he is a power running back, and that's probably a little bit of a weakness for Tennessee. And Tennessee's secondary is not great. Can Will Levis take advantage of that? I don't think so. And I've told you before that, I picked Alabama to beat Tennessee. I think most people did. And I thought that LSU would be a struggle. I was wrong. So I might be wrong here, but I feel solid about this one. I didn't feel solid earlier in the season about any of my picks because this Tennessee team had so many unknowns. But, man, I just don't think this is nearly as substantial of a feat as I thought even 24 hours ago before my film study. I don't see how this Kentucky team stays close.
I don't see how they stay close either. And I know we've talked about Tennessee's secondary and that's their weak spot. And can Will Levis take advantage of that? No, because he doesn't have an offensive line. That's just the answer. Tennessee's defensive line is going to gobble him up. And I wouldn't be surprised if he did not play the entire game. Like, that wouldn't surprise me. I feel like he's going to get hit hard, and taken out. That's just my opinion. I'd do an over-under on that.
I would too. I'd say 3.5 quarters. I'm sorry, 2.5 quarters.
Yeah, I was like 3.5 is a little much.
Yeah, if you want to say 7:30 minute mark in the third quarter, is he still in the game? I would say no.
I think it depends on what happens in the second quarter, in the first half. Because if he gets hurt in the first half and they can go to the locker room and shoot him up real quick, then maybe he won't feel it and he'll stay out the rest of the game. However, if he doesn't get hurt in the first half, then he'll in the third quarter, he's gone.
Well, and the other thing, isn't this kind of it for Will Levis? I mean, at some point, if you're going to be the great NFL draft prospect that everybody believes, don't you have to pull the plug on this season if Kentucky's not going to make any sort of significant run? I mean, don't you have to say that, hey, and I hate it when players lay out of bowl games and all that sort of thing, but I do get it. And at some point, if they're a 5-2 team, if they hit 5-3, does Will Levis say, I think that I would be better off preparing for the NFL? I'm not saying you should quit on your season. I hate to be that guy, Amanda, but at some point, this is a business decision, right?
Well, I think before the NIL came along, yes, I understood kids wanting to come out of games and, not play like Christian McCaffrey set out again in his bowl game. And I get that kind of thing because you don't want to take that chance for no reason at all. Well, now that the NIL is here, you're already getting paid. That's your job. This is now your job. You play those games. You play those bowl games. I don't care if you have a career in the NFL. You're getting paid to play. You play.
I'm going to half agree with that. How about this? So I'm going to say that you're right theoretically that they should play because why? Because, well, they've signed an agreement with an advertiser, a sponsor, whatever you want to call it, and they have agreed to those terms. But we've already seen the LSU player, the quarterback, walk away in preseason despite the NIL deals. I'm sure these are paid up front, a lot of them, or maybe they're not. I can tell you with Jacob and Cooper, who both enjoy doing our podcast, I said, I'm going to write up a contract that protects you so that you make sure you get paid. But if you at any point don't want to do it, you don't have to continue. That doesn't mean I'm going to continue paying them forward. And they're both like, okay, that's cool. And they both enjoy it, and it's awesome. And I think the insight has been something that you can't get anywhere else. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hint, hint. So all of that in there.
Like a typical job. I mean, that's what it is. It's
That's
like a
kinda
job.
isn't that how things work
Yeah.
out?
It's how a normal job works. I don't get paid, in advance for the entire year just to see if I'll work. That's not how that works.
That was considered at one point to get you on board. Files Automotive
You
Group,
wish I'd held out.
Files Automotive Group